First Lady of the House and Pastor of the House. Everybody else is very For those of you who don't know me, I'm no stranger to this church. I have visited many times in the past, and it was such an honor and a great pleasure to be notified that I guess you guys wanted me to come here tonight and talk on the issue of domestic violence, which is actually one of my fortes. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and my very first experience with domestic violence was at the age of 14. And I know a lot of people might ask, 14, that's too young. You don't know anything, you shouldn't be in a relationship at the age of 14. But I had my first child at the age of 13, 1985, when shortly after my parents divorced. I was 11. I came from a broken home with my parents. My mom came home and decided to ask my dad for a divorce. Growing up as the only child in the house, I was so hurt and so traumatized by what happened between my two parents. And so started looking for love in all the wrong places. I came across a young man in the neighborhood, and he was in private school and I was in public school at the time. And he started just telling me all the right things that I wanted to hear. I was still going through the depression of my parents, you know, being divorced. I never envisioned that I would ever see my parents part, but in essence, that's what happened. And looking for love in all the wrong places, he pretty much was forcing me, like telling me if I don't give it up, and that he was going to leave me too. And so I gave in to the temptation. Very first time I lost my virginity, I became pregnant. About 9 months in the house, my mom never knew I was pregnant until January 24th, 1985, when I was in labor. For whatever odd reason, I know it was divine intervention because my mom usually wait on her ride. My dad normally calls me every morning to wake me up in the morning, and that morning my mom locked the phone in her bedroom, you know, and she was outside waiting on her ride. But for some odd reason, God would have it where her ride didn't come and pick her up. And I'm on the bed, not really knowing as a 13-year-old that I'm in labor. All I know, I had to use the restroom, and it was kind of difficult for me to do so. And so I heard my parents talking outside. My dad must have pulled up to the front of the house and asked my mom, well, where's Carolyn? I've been trying to call her and she's not answering the phone. The thing is that my mom didn't know I knew how to get in her bedroom with the butter knife. Okay. So she told him in turn that the phone is locked up in her room. Say, well, what's going on? And she told him, well, I see her in the house and she talking about something. She feel like going to the restroom, but she can't use the restroom. So my dad, being my dad, I'm daddy's girl, he came in the house and he said, hey, what's wrong? I said, Dad, I don't feel good. He said, well, tell me what's wrong. I said, I have to use the restroom, but I just can't use the restroom. So he got me. I used to wear big clothes at the time because I didn't want my mom to know, because she was very strict. You know, and being a preacher's daughter, you know, you're not expected to, you know, get involved in any relationship at such a tender age. And so my dad came, he picked me up, like helped me up out the bed. He walked me to the restroom. He closed the restroom door. He stood outside and he said, just sit on the toilet and calm down, take a deep breath. And I did just that. But the more I kept straining, I was pushing. I didn't realize that was going on. Those 9 months I stayed, I was pregnant. I was all alone. My boyfriend at the time, he said he didn't shoot, you know, sperm. He shot doggy water. There's no way that could be his child. And so I spent those 9 months, just me, my kitten. My mom was working 2 jobs, but now she didn't have the same leisure that she had before of traveling the Caribbean. And so my dad said, we got to take you to the doctor. They took me to the doctor, out to Dr. Collier's office. I refused to get undressed because I knew I was pregnant, and I knew if he know I'm pregnant, he's going to tell my parents, and I'm going to have a lot of problems with my mom more so. And so I fought him. He got tired of me and he told my parents, look, she refused to get undressed. You know, you might as well take her back home. So as we turning out by the Sablecom area to go back home, we lived on 80th Street at the time, and I started screaming in the car. And my dad said, what's wrong? I said, oh! He said, something is definitely wrong. And he made a U-turn, banged a U-turn, and took me to Jackson Memorial. We got in the ER, and they told me to go in the room. Went in the room. The nurse asked me to have a seat on the bed. I went to sit down, and I started screaming. The nurse said, why are you screaming? I said, I can't sit down. She said, what are you talking about? You can't sit down. So she said, you know, you need to put this over you, which was one of the hospital robes. And she helped me up on the bed to sit me down. I started screaming. She wanted to see why I was screaming. I said, it hurts down there. So when she went to look down, the baby head was sticking out, and she started yelling and asking for help, and da-da-da-da, and everybody came in, the doctors, and they were in complete shock. That was like, back in the days in 1985, that was like kind of unheard of for a child so young to be in labor. But God would have it where baby came, baby was 4 pounds, 5.5 ounces. Never went to the doctor, not one day of my life during that pregnancy. And my parents wanted to know, who is the father? And I told them who is the father. So they went to his parents' house. Parents came over, saw the baby. And they said, ain't no doubt about it, it's you all the way. So we ended up getting back together after that, and got pregnant the following year. But this goes because lack of education. When you don't have parent Haitian culture, and I'm speaking this because it's a fact. As Bertha and I was coming over here tonight, we were talking about the fact that, you know, families try to hold secrets, you know, because of fear of what society is going to say. See, my mom more so, she never talked to me about the birds and the bees. As a matter of fact, if I came home and I asked, if I heard something in school and I asked her, she wanted to beat me, you know, rather than sit me down and have dialogue with me. So I got pregnant again. I got pregnant with my second son, and that was my very first experience with domestic violence. He came home one night because he was a big boy, adult boy, you know, and so girls flocked at him. And he came home, he wanted to become intimate, and I refused. And he punched the living crap out of me. And so afterwards, he said, you see what you made me do? Now you see what you made me do? So you put the blame on me. I'm 14 years old. What do I know? All I see is that I'm flattered. He's exuding this jealous spirit, and it, to me, I was like, wow, he really loved me. And it's so easy to confuse love with lust. Yes. You know, truly. Then after that experience, it would go on again. You know, he talked to me any kind of way. He spit on me. He put me in a chokehold. He used to lock me up in a closet. He used to victimize me to the point where I felt like hopeless. By the time I gave birth to my son, let me tell you, that was one of the worst pregnancies that I have ever experienced. But when somebody's telling you nobody's going to want you with these kids, what do? You start second-guessing yourself because you start believing nobody's going to want you with all these kids. By the time I was 17, I dropped out in the 11th grade. I had 4 kids by that time for him. Yep. And it was so, it's, you know, you can easily say, you know, on the outside looking in, what's wrong with you, girl? Or what's wrong with you, boy? Because guys get abused too. So that's why I'm putting it out there, you know. And when people hear about domestic violence, they hear that they're thinking it's always physical. Domestic violence is not always physical. The worst form of abuse someone can be subjected to is actually verbal and emotional abuse. When somebody starts telling you that you're ugly, and that you're this,